Greetings, Earthlings. This is Dave Smith coming at you with another episode of And Another Thing with Dave. So Afghanistan is in the news again, still again. Imagine that, our longest running war. You know, the new Vietnam. Except no, it's actually surpassed Vietnam now. So it's now, we're going on 20 years, 18 years now in Afghanistan. And the latest leak shows that there's no direction. They quote unquote have no idea what they're doing. So basically, like Iraq, this was set up to fail from the onset, right? So some people will be like, oh, what a bunch of bumbling idiots. The government can't do anything. No. It's set up to fail. Dick Cheney said we would be there for 50 years, but he didn't say why. He said that's a strategic location. Didn't say why, though. So the why is everything. So why is it such a shitstorm? Why did, Dickhead Cheney say we would be there for 50 years? Why is it such a quagmire if it's such a poor country and has nothing? Really? The Taliban have us at a stalemate for 18 years? So what's the real story, right? So you got to dig down. Well, I did a research paper on this, and what I found out was pretty amazing, Go figure. It was about oil and natural gas. Not hard to believe, right? So initially, and this is prior to September 11th, 2001, 9/11, the U.S. issued a warning to, who was it? It was the Northern Alliance, that they were to join forces with the Taliban and protect this pipeline that we were going to put in. It's called the TIPI pipeline. And the pipeline goes from Turkmenistan to India. And the reason for the pipeline is Turkmenistan, like everybody's like, why are we fighting in Afghanistan? Well, it's basically a proxy war fighting Russia over access to Turkmenistan, which is just north of Afghanistan. This is something the U.S. media will never talk about. Why do we give a shit about Turkmenistan? Oh, it's the fourth largest natural gas reserves in the world. That's why. The person who came up with the plan for this pipeline, the TIPI pipeline, is Ahmed Karzai, the head of Unocal Oil. Well, guess who we put in charge of Afghanistan once our military was over there? You got it, Ahmed Karzai. And if you look at the route of the TIPI pipeline, all the villages you hear of military skirmishes, the Kandahar province, the this, the that, it's all right along the pipeline. And why is there a skirmish? Because here comes this oil company trying to put in a pipeline through somebody's village, and those people shoot and say, get the hell out of our village with your U.S. military and your pipeline taking our oil or our, neighboring oil, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, that's the backstory that you're not getting. So Turkmenistan was the original reason. And why do we give a shit about Iran? Oh, because if we were able to go through Iran, we could make such a shorter pipeline. It would cost like $1 billion less. So of course people are willing to go to war for that. But anyway, I digress. So that's why, we're over there. We're going to, keep a small force over there indefinitely because we have to protect that pipeline. once it's finished, you know. But then, since we've been in Afghanistan, now that area is now the leading producer of opium / heroin in the world. Didn't even really used to be a blip on the map as far as opium goes. The main production area for opium previous to that was what's called the Golden Triangle, and that's Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand, which brings us to Vietnam. Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand. The CIA was operating out of Laos and Cambodia illegally for, a decade. Why? Because they were making a ton of money smuggling opium and heroin out of Laos and Cambodia. And that's another reason the Vietnam War went on so long, is because the CIA was making so much black market money. They were basically printing money, smuggling opium out of Vietnam. So, now brings us back to Afghanistan. All of a sudden, that's the leading production area in the world for opium and heroin. Since our military has been there, it's become the leader. Like, that's just too much of a coincidence, right? And the CIA's got a long history of getting busted smuggling drugs. The Iran-Contra affair, they got caught smuggling cocaine into the U.S., selling it illegally on the black market, buying weapons, and then shipping those off to support a rebel army in Nicaragua that Congress didn't want to support. That's Reagan and Bush for you. Reagan and Bush Sr. and Oliver North. And Bill Clinton was involved in that because they landed the planes full of cocaine in Mena, Arkansas, when Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas. That's how he made it onto the political stage, being governor of the poorest state in the country. But that's another story altogether. But yeah, so here we are in Afghanistan. It's the leading producer of heroin. The CIA's making tons of money smuggling it out of there. So that's just going to go on for on and on and on. They've got to, they're going to milk that golden cow for as long as they can. Now there's been a discovery of a huge motherlode of lithium in Afghanistan. Lithium being the main ingredient in like cell phone batteries and, a lot of other batteries, car batteries even, for electric cars. So we'll probably never leave Afghanistan, but at least now we're starting to hear what we've known all along, that, it's a total crock of shit that we're over there fighting some guys in caves. Gotta be kidding me. Really. Over there fighting guys in caves that we helped them build back in the day. That's another thing the media doesn't talk about. How did the Taliban or Al Qaeda even come to be? The CIA funded the Mujahideen to fight against Russia in Afghanistan. So, proxy war against Russia. The Mujahideen was Muslim extremists recruited from all over the Middle East by the CIA, from all bunch of different countries. So a bunch of different nationalities. What they had in common is that they were Muslim extremists and they were ready to fight and die for their personal religion. So the CIA fucking created what later became Al Qaeda and the Taliban. They broke off, factioned off, and became different things. But oh my God. And then they basically created ISIS as well. ISIS was created by the disbanded Iraqi military. When we invaded Iraq the second time, we told their military, go home, you're fired. Well, they still had keys to the to the armories and the weapons depots, and they went and got all their weapons and tanks and everything, and boom, there's your insurgency. It's the old, it's the Iraqi police force and army that we disbanded. So we purposely created chaos, and that was the origins of ISIS, and that's where they got their weapons and everything. Then when we left Iraq, we left a bunch of weapons there, saying it was cheaper to leave them there than it was to ship them back here. So ISIS got all those too. So it's almost like we wanted them to have them. Anyway, that's why we're in Afghanistan. The mainstream or lamestream media will never talk about it. You'll never hear this story on the lamestream media because it points out the fact that, we go to war for oil, which is basically, corporate profit. Started out as war for oil, but, then it morphed into war for opium. Now it's morphing into war for lithium. So it's basically war for profit. But, our government can't just come out and say that. So we always have to create some either hated dictator that we need to remove, some people that are suffering that we need to save, or in this case, the war on terror, like such a vague enemy that, you can't ever see it or touch it. It's a concept. We're at war with a concept. So there it is. The debacle of the Afghanistan war. Now watch, even after this latest leak has come out showing that Afghanistan is a big crock of shit and that there's no organization and the dog's chasing its tail, it's still not going to stop. We're still not going to withdraw the rest of our troops. Because why? Because of the military industrial complex. There's too many people making too much money. It's crazy. But anyway, so that's that. Afghanistan. So basically, that's why we're in Afghanistan. That's why we still have troops in Iraq. That's why we're in Somalia, in Syria, still have a presence in Lebanon. On and on and on. 1,000 military bases around the world. Are you kidding me? Do you know how much money that must take to upkeep? Wow. But hell no, you can't afford health care. Hell no. But yeah, so this story on Afghanistan leads to a story on Iraq, and it leads to a story on Iran, and it leads to a story on Syria, and on and on and on and on. And in Libya right now, there's open air slave markets because of our foreign policy. Because thank you, Hillary Clinton. Thank you, Hillary and Obama, for destroying Libya, the most progressive country in Africa. They were moving towards the gold standard, the gold dinar. He announced it, and that was his fate. That was the nail in his coffin right there. He announced that he would only sell Libyan oil and natural gas in the dinar, not the dollar. Oh, we can't have that. Guess what? Saddam Hussein announced, before we invaded Iraq the second time, announced he was going to only sell oil in euros. Whoa, we can't have that. It's got to be dollars. It's got to be dollars. We need to control the world market.
That's what it's all about. The petrodollar. We're propping up the dollar because it's a fiat currency. So we'll go to war to prop it up and then let corporations go in there and make a bunch of profit, and the people get nothing except for, dead sons and daughters, maimed sons and daughters. And the corporations get rich. And then we do it again and 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 again. We don't seem to fucking get it. But anyway, this has been Dave Smith with And Another Thing with Dave. So please hit the star if you like what I'm doing, and also, message me, chime in, add your voicemail on the episode. Would love your contribution. You can also find me on YouTube at And Another Thing with Dave, and Instagram at And Another Thing, on Twitter at Dave Smith with 3 T's, and on Facebook I've got a group called Progressives Unite. And what I do there is I post videos and, I tons of information. So if you want an overwhelming amount of information, join the group on Facebook, Progressives Unite. Just search for it. You'll find it. You'll know you've got the right one. There's a few. You'll know you got the right one if you find the one with an American flag, but instead of the stars being normal, they're in the form of a peace sign. So that's it. And Another Thing with Dave. Peace out. Thanks for listening.